we think that Israel has gone a long way in agreeing to a freeze of construction in the territory that this plan allocates in Area C to a Palestinian state. It's a significant commitment, but I think that when the dust settles, I hope people around the world understand Israel's made a firm offer to more than double the Palestinian territory and to create a Palestinian state on specific terms and specific conditions and specific territorial dimensions. And that, my friends, is an enormous breakthrough that no one has seen over the past 52 years. You can go back through all the great conferences and summits and agreements, whether it's Oslo, whether it's Y, whether it's Geneva, whether it's Madrid. You can go through all of them. I defy anyone to read any of those documents and tell me exactly where the borders of Palestine and Israel begin or end. And you can't. And so this is an enormous step forward, and I congratulate the Israeli government on having the courage to move forward in this matter. I would not underestimate the amount of courage it takes to put out a map of a Palestinian state. You know, to those people who say, well, it's not big enough, or it's double the footprint. It's double Gaza. It connects the two. And I can tell you plenty of people that saw this map on the Israeli side. When they first saw it, they gasped because what is that you put there in the middle of Israel? And it's for good reason.
Rafael Arendt from the Times of Israel. Ambassador Friedman, if I may ask a question about the 4-year time frame. It's question number one. Why is Israel allowed to take its spoils already right now when the Palestinians have a long list of requirements to fulfill before they get their part of the bargain?
Your first question, I think, is a good one and an important one. And what it does is it bridges the asymmetry between Israel and the Palestinians. This is a completely asymmetric relationship. Israel is a democracy. You can hold it to its word. It has an enormous relationship with the United States on multiple levels, and that relationship is very solid. It is in a position today to keep its part of the bargain. The Palestinians today are not in a position to keep any bargain. The Palestinians are not united. Their government is not democratic. Their institutions are weak. Their respect for the types of norms that we hold dear, whether it's not just democracy, but human rights, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, are non-existent. And so you have to bridge that asymmetry by saying, well, if Israel's ready today, why shouldn't they get what they're agreeing to today? If the Palestinians are going to be ready in 4 years, well, then they can get what they get in 4 years. And the only way, I think, to induce Israel to make the kind of commitments today that will have ramifications for years to come is to provide them today with what they're entitled to in exchange for that. And so I have no doubt that Israel would never agree to a naked freeze of 4 years just on the possibility that the Palestinians might A, be willing to negotiate, and B, achieve the milestones that we just couldn't have gotten there. And to us, it was very important to go to the Palestinians, who are, as again, asymmetrically, they're not ready, to say to them, look, you don't have to say yes or no today. Okay, we understand you're in a very difficult position. You're not united. You have numerous streams of conflict that kind of weave throughout your body politic. So take your time, digest it, and you will not be penalized by the passage of time. If it takes you 3 or 4 years to get there, the territory that is earmarked for you, the integrity of that territorial opportunity will be preserved. Israel's never agreed to a 4-year freeze. They agreed to a 10-month freeze, and it was a complete waste of time. The larger point is the freeze and the recognition of sovereignty. Neither one of them bring peace. Okay, they're interim steps to achieve territorial integrity for the Palestinians, and to, in exchange for that, recognize Israel's sovereignty with regard to communities that are unlikely under any circumstance to not be part of Israel in the future. So it would seem like a small price to pay in order to obtain that opportunity. The bigger deal, okay, now that you've created that option, the option is now alive. It's in place. It's 4 years. It's going to last for 4 years. The clock is ticking, but it's ticking very slowly. It's a lot of time. The critical issue for years has been the Palestinian complaint that Israel is creating facts on the ground that over time deplete the possibility of a two-state solution. And in order for us, it was important to us to freeze that process, to freeze that depletion so that there would be, if the Palestinians come to the table and if they agree to a two-state solution along these lines, that the territory be there for them. If we didn't have that freeze in place, 4 years from now or whatever the timeline would be, this could be rendered academic, because there frankly is no reason for Israel to discontinue its process. There's strong political support behind it, and the idea would be to keep that option alive. Well, to keep that option alive, Israel's never agreed before to anything more than 10 months, and it was a waste of time. So to agree to that type of a concession, and recognizing the fact that the communities that we're talking about, highly unlikely to be going anywhere anyway. As we've already said, we don't support any notion of evacuation. These are large communities. There's hundreds of thousands of people that live in these communities. So it seemed like a small price to pay to recognize Israel's sovereignty over this territory in exchange for that territorial freeze. This is not something we mediated. This is something that we obtained as a commitment from Israel in order to keep this option alive, and we were willing to recognize its sovereignty in exchange.
My question as a lawyer is it a basis for negotiation, or is it an interdependent package that needs to be agreed upon by both sides? Or, as has been asked today, is it something that's open for either side to take what he or she likes and implement immediately, unilaterally, or does it all have to wait for a negotiated arrangement? Thank you.
Okay, so there's I would look at it like this. I think there's the deal, and then there's the deal within the deal. The deal itself, which is the long document that you've read, is a reasonably comprehensive. I mean, if one were to actually sit down and negotiate every point, the document would grow probably tenfold. But it's a reasonably comprehensive outline of the terms upon which Israel and the Palestinians will exist, two separate states side by side, a nation state of the Jewish people, a nation state of the Palestinian people, with overriding Israeli security control upon the borders that are laid out. Now, we think it's a basis for negotiation. It's certainly not something the United States would impose on either side. And to the extent that the parties negotiate different terms that lead to peace, we obviously would be delighted to see that happen. We have no pride of authorship. In terms of the deal within the deal, that is the agreement that we've reached with Israel, that if Israel maintains this optionality for 4 years, creates a 4-year settlement freeze with regard to the 50% of Area C that's allocated to the Palestinians, if they achieve that freeze and agree to negotiate, use this plan as the basis for negotiation, which the Prime Minister has already done. He said that this plan will be the basis for negotiation. Then, upon Israel applying its laws to the territory that is earmarked for Israel within Judea and Samaria, that is laid out on the map, upon them doing that pursuant to this committee process, which we just talked about, then the United States will recognize Israel's application of its laws. So you have the bigger deal, and then basically what I would refer to as the implementing agreement, which in order to keep this open for 4 years and not throw it back in a drawer, the United States has agreed to recognize Israel's application of laws as you will, if you will, I don't know if the right word is compensation, but as an inducement for Israel to keep the other territory open for a future agreement.